Okay, everybody, welcome. We're going to open the meeting. Welcome to the Community Redevelopment Agency meeting on August 14th, 2023. I'm calling that meeting to order. Pastor Mulberry, could you lead us in the invocation, please?
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, everyone. Father, we thank you once again for the day that you've made and certainly for the opportunity to come before your presence. Here we are, God. We're in your presence again, in need of you to guide, to lead, to direct, and instruct. We thank you, God, because you've been so good. You brought us again together for this purpose and cause. Bless us, Lord. I pray those that are gathered for the meeting. We thank you for what you're going to do in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Commissioner Turner, could you please lead us?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Ms. Krantz, please.
Thank you. Commissioner Tammy McCaskill is not present for the record. Commissioner Justin Campbell,
Present.
Commissioner Will Jones,
Here.
Commissioner Rufus Borum,
Present.
Commissioner Terry Turner, Representative Teresa Jackson,
Present.
Mayor Robbie Correa.
Present.
Madam Mayor, we have a quorum in the chambers.
Thank you. Has everybody had an opportunity to read the minutes from our last regular meeting on June 12th and our workshop on July 20th?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion and a second.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition? Okay, thank you. I'm going to open the floor to public comments. Please fill out a card, yellow card near the doorway, and keep your comments to 3 minutes, name and address for the record. And is there anybody here for public comments? Sure, come on. Please come up. Just give them.
Mayor, can we make sure that it's not with regards to a special printed item? Is it with regards?
You can fill out your card in a little bit if you want to come up.
Madam Mayor, we're unable to
Yes.
hear her. She needs to turn on her the microphone.
Okay. Good evening, everyone.
Yes.
My name is Tarsha Gibbons. My address is 225 Stillwell Avenue here in Palatka, Florida. I was curious about the map of the CRA. My question is, can that map be amended to include other areas?
It's a bit of a process. Do you want to speak to that, Mr. Griffith?
Yes, the CRA can expand its boundaries. The base year for the expanded area would be set in the year that you expand the boundaries. Typically, CRAs do not expand the boundaries. They do a new finding of blight for adjacent areas and establish a separate TIF district. That way it has its own sunset date.
Okay. So is it possible to have a business district on the north side of Palatka?
Yes.
It's possible to have a tax increment district on the north side. A business district would be a planning matter. It would be deferred to the planning board.
So they're two different items or
Okay.
processes.
Well, I understand that the north historic area is included. Am I correct? And the south as well, and also the center business district?
They're in the CRA, the Community Redevelopment Area, yes.
Right. So my question would be, can we have, let's say, something on the north side included in that or amended to where it's a part of the TIF is what I'm asking.
You can, that would be an action taken by the city commission or the county commission. The taxing entities are the ones that have to initiate the creation of a tax increment district.
Okay. So last question is, what steps or what information do I need from the city to start that process?
I can offer to have this conversation offline and direct you to Florida Redevelopment Association. They have a lot of information online about the creation of taxing the district.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else here for public comment? Seeing none, we're going to close public comment and move on to the agenda items. Regular business discussion direction of the Main Street program.
Yes.
Mr. Griffith?
Thank you, Mayor. Board members, there's been a lot of discussion surrounding reinstituting or reestablishing a Main Street community designation within City of Palatka, specifically downtown Palatka. At your direction, staff initiated a public information campaign targeted at getting some feedback from the public on if they would support that effort. I believe you have the summary that was in your packet, but just to kind of generalize it, the results have been overwhelmingly positive. In response to the question of, on a scale of 1 to 5, how likely are you to support Palatka's participation in the Main Street program? 72.3% said very likely and 18.1% said likely. I believe Sonny forwarded out all the backup information related to this. We did not want to put it in the packet. It was quite extensive. This campaign is still running. But staff has, based upon this and your previous discussions, included the Main Street manager's salary and the associated carrying costs in your proposed budget, which is on your agenda for review and potential acceptance today as item number 4. So I'm here to answer any potential questions, but this is on here to determine if you want to move forward with a Main Street manager and designation in the next fiscal year.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions of Mr. Griffith?
I don't have any questions. I just have, it was a very quick overlook, and I'm trying to bring it up on my phone of the survey, but I don't, from what I gathered, I think some of the responses were not even, some responses were with regards to Main Street, but I think some of the responses were kind of far left, and not necessarily pertaining, more specifically when they were asking about some of the things that they would like to see. I don't think it's, I think it's void when it comes down to the survey. But that was just, again, we got the email and I tried to look over it prior to the meeting, but some of the stuff that I see or saw was not necessarily Main Street related.
Commissioner Turner, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I would, when we had this conversation in our earlier meeting, the comment was made that it wouldn't just be a Main Street manager, that it would be a Main Street CRA manager to have more duties than just the office of the Main Street duties. And I just wanted to make sure that still planned to be as a CRA / Main Street manager, and not just the Main Street.
That is correct.
That is correct. And the job descriptions in the packet that has the title of CRA / Main Street Director. Any other questions?
I just, my only concern is the, like I said, we got the survey today, and I'm just at a state of unreadiness as it relates to trying to even decipher the information so quickly, what we got, and in addition to other information that I have. So I just want to at least put that out there.
I mean, I would have to agree with the others. We received the information today, so, we maybe want to take a closer look to it, and I haven't had a chance to review the job description in this packet, so we can bring it up in a later date. You want to close it out.
Right.
We want to have full facts.
Right, absolutely. And then I think question is, is it something that has to be in this cycle, or can it be considered for next year? It just seemed to be rushed at this time, in my opinion. It just seemed to be rushed to try to get it implemented and working. So that's just.
Commissioner Turner?
I believe if the commission's not ready to listen to this today, that they could definitely fund the position, and that it could take the 2 more months if necessary for the CRA and the city commission to discuss what they want to do and what direction they want to move forward in. So the biggest thing is, if you think we might want to do it, we might want to fund it in today's proposed budget, and then you can do it or not do it. It's up to you, but at least the funding will be there if you decide that's the direction you want to go. It doesn't mean that you have to.
Spend the money on that. Thank you. Anyone else? We do have a public comment card, Ms. Kitchens.
Allegra Kitchens, 1027 South 12th Street, Palatka, Florida. I agree with Mr. Turner. It seems a bit rushed to me. But however, I will go ahead and make my comments. Main Street did not work for Palatka the last time, and it won't work now. In spite of the very small responses to the questionnaire of only 20 answers, there are over 10,000 residents in the city of Palatka. There's almost 6,000 registered voters. 1,239 voters turned out and voted. 20 responses is not representative of the community. I can tell you the majority of downtown merchants and citizens of Palatka hated the Main Street program, celebrated when former Mayor Hill and his commission fired Rudd and ended the Main Street program.
That's
That's
not
not
true.
true.
That's not true.
Mr. Rudd departed.
We did not
Well,
fire.
I stand corrected. Mr. Rudd departed. Fine. Thank you. But I've talked to a lot of residents and I've talked to a lot of merchants, and they still feel the same way today that they felt back when Main Street was gotten rid of. As to the CRA director and manager, a couple of years ago, when Mary Lawson Brown was still commissioner, I don't remember exactly the year, so I pointed out that she was still on the commission. You all voted not to do a CRA director, even though it's required. You didn't want to have it. You couldn't afford it and didn't want to have it. So the question, I don't think you need to have it now. At this point, I would agree to, like Mr. Turner said, do a little bit of study on this. Don't go ahead and fund it today, for heaven's sakes. Do a little bit of study on it. Have a workshop, a town hall meeting where all the citizens that care to come out can come out, like you did with the Bright program. Let people give you their opinion on what they want. This, yes, it involves CRA money, but almost $500,000 of that CRA money comes out of the county coffers and goes into the CRA program. So we who pay county taxes and other city taxes have a very vested interest in the CRA. The other thing is that I would say, again, is I think Ms. Gibbons was questioning about that. This Main Street program only applies to downtown Palatka right now. Just a point of interest. But what I'm asking you to remember is that back in late 2015 or early 2016, when in your wisdom you voted with then Mayor Hill to terminate the Main Street program, I think you need to think back very carefully, look at those minutes and remember why you voted to terminate the Main Street program. This is the same program you voted to terminate. Yes, Main Street's all over, but with only 900 cities in Main Street over the thousands of cities in the United States, one wonders why. 55 cities in Palatka, in Putnam County, in Florida, out of 411 belong to Main Street. Again, the question is why? If it's such a great program, why? But again, if you all would do a workshop for the public, Price Martin or somewhere where all the public can come if they want to speak, and then do it that way and wait till you get all the questionnaires in. Hopefully you'll get more than 20. I would think you'd get about 1,000 at least, and then do it that way instead of, as Mr. Turner said, it seems a bit rushed. Thank you.
I think I said it was rushed.
You did say it. That's okay. Commissioner.
That's okay.
Carter.
Whoever said it, and you all don't look alike, but y'all are all very good looking and got a good sense of humor. Ha ha.
And there were 212 respondents to date to the survey. There weren't 20, but okay. Mr. Hafner, please fill out a card afterward. Thank you.
Jerry Hafner, 122 Hilty Lane in East Palatka, not a city resident, but I consider myself as much as the city as any resident that lives within the city limits. I'm not really sure where to start. I hear so many negative comments coming all the time, but I can tell you that right up front, I strongly support a Main Street program. If you look around at some of the cities that have adopted it right here, not too far from the city of Palatka, as a matter of fact, you'll find out that they have been extremely successful. One of the problems that we had with Main Street when we were originally here was frankly, very little support from the city. I don't know if we
Not
want to
true.
keep going.
From this city who,
Can you let him finish?
well, I just wanted to kind of
Well,
at least ask the
okay,
question.
so let me
You said
clarify that.
city.
City government and also some city residents, okay? I will tell you that
We funded that program year after year after year when I started in 2015, and I think other commissioners had also supported the program as well. So when you say the city, you're talking about all of us.
yeah, the problem is when you look at the way it was funded before, the city directed all of the expenditures primarily. The city manager at that point in time was running Main Street. When you look at a true Main Street program, the Main Street manager is supposed to be independent of the city. Now, I understand that's going to be difficult to ever get across in Palatka, but it's kind of a necessary evil to get that organization separated from city government, because city government is always going to be looking at everything else instead of what Main Street can do for the area. Main Street might be concentrated on downtown Palatka, but downtown Palatka, folks, is the heart of Putnam County. Now, I can tell you, we're going to lose that quickly if we keep letting everything else expand out the way it is, which that's fine. It's good for everything to expand. But when I look back 50 years ago, when I was here in high school, I so enjoyed everything that was going on in this city. And it was because there was strong support from all of the city at that point in time to make things happen, to keep things going. We don't have that same kind of support anymore. We have a strong group of volunteers. And by the way, Main Street is made up primarily of volunteers who work kind of under the direction of a Main Street manager. I've been volunteering in Main Street since 1988, I believe it is. Long time. But it's difficult to keep folks interested when there doesn't seem to be a lot of support for the program. And Commissioner Borm, I understand what you're talking about, where the funding was and this and that. But again, I'm going to tell you that in my opinion, all of that funding was not directed where it should have been directed. Okay. We have a small, actually the group that I'm part of now, Revitalize Historic Palatka, which I'm vice president of. We are kind of
Running out of time, Mr. Kafner.
pardon me.
Your 3 minutes is up.
That's all I had. Is this
Yes,
public
that's all
comment?
anybody has, so I have to be fair and.
I would too.
Thank you.
I'm gonna sit back down and put,
Thank you.
and put in another card.
Is there anybody else come up, Mr. Roach?
Cheryl Roach, 312 Dodge. I'm a little confused. I thought there was a CRA budget workshop that was coming up as well.
There is.
Yeah, Thursday. So why are we even considering implementing a Main Street CRA director today? Please.
Because the reason why it is on the agenda is because funding usually for the CRA director would be for the CRA Main Street director, because it's a dual position, would be through the CRA budget. So because that's going to be part of the budget, if it's approved, we're discussing the whole CRA. Main
Okay,
Street
so if
program.
you get approval today, it won't be discussed in a workshop. It will just be pushed through. Is that what you're saying?
No, it will be, it may not be discussed in as much depth as we're discussing now, but was on the agenda, and that is just, but the budget is as well. So we will be discussing the budget.
All right, okay. I'm just exceedingly frustrated pertaining to the hostility I perceive, and it is my personal opinion, and this is a public comment, pertaining to the CRA and the TIF districts in general. I've been coming to these meetings now for over 5 years. It's been 7 years since I bought my property. And quite frankly, I have seen very little progress. You can talk about the potable water, but that was done primarily from grants. When the funding is discussed, I don't feel accountability is really brought to the table. And for any suggestion of expanding a program that hasn't helped the neighborhoods it was intended to help is a little frustrating to me. I don't know how political CRA is supposed to be. I don't know how much we should really, be discussing the whole city when what CRA is and intended to be in 1983 was clearly defined, and it almost seems to be penalized if you support it as it is and expect accountability of the city to fairly utilize the funds. So, I mean, I will continue to come to these meetings, and I will most certainly be at the budget meeting, but I'm not in support of any allocating for funding today to go towards a director that all you're doing is fighting about it. And it's a lot of money. I still have major issues in my neighborhood, as do other CRA areas. So I certainly hope that you don't allocate funds today.
I would like to not necessarily respond, but I would like to address, I understand.
I'm sorry, I can't.
I understand where it is that she's coming from, but in order for us to properly have the conversation for budget, it's an allocation so that it will be on the budget. So I think that this conversation is very much necessary. So as we go into the budget conversation, if this is something that is being considered, that it's already a part of the budget versus us having to come back and make amendments to the budget. So just because we have the conversation on today doesn't mean, as Mr. Turner has stated, that it's going to be something that is approved. We're just simply having that to where it can be a line item. So when we get the budget for the CRA, it's inclusive of everything that needs to be considered versus us having to come back. So we can have the conversation today and say that we're in favor, get to the CRA budget workshop and completely say, nope, it's not going to work for us. So progression is being made, but there are certain things when we're dealing with funding, when we're dealing with budgets, that it's best to have it up front, because if you have been coming to these meetings, as you stated, you would notice we always say we don't have enough information when it's time to make the decision. So this is a part of the process. So when it's time for us to make the decision, we have absolutely everything that's in front of us. So when it's time to make that decision, we can't no longer say we don't have enough information to move forward. So this is a very much necessary conversation so that when we get in budget workshop, it's a productive budget workshop versus us having to put our brakes on something again because we don't have the legit information.
May I respond, Madam Mayor?
Well, this is not a give and take. Quickly, please.
Okay,
because
thank
had your
you.
3 minutes.
Yeah, I recall being in attendance of a meeting that only, I think Mandy Tucker, I don't know if Jonathan was there, of the community that actually resides in the TIP and the CRA to give suggestions pertaining to things that we wanted to see budgeted. I specifically spoke about manhole covers and sewer covers that are broken with dangerous cement. I spoke about landscaping. I spoke about the riverfront. I spoke about sidewalks. Not one of those line items that I brought up as a citizen at a time when I was supposed to be able to discuss such things have been discussed within the budget. So I call foul.
Well, I'm not
things.
calling you combative. I'm not saying if we're not privy to conversations in which you've had, that's a whole nother different story, but we're addressing what we're talking about today. So now we're gonna defer to staff to address
Mr. Griffith's
yours.
gonna
Okay,
respond.
so this actually would come up under item number 4, but for the benefit of Ms. Roach, if I could respond. So the meeting that she's speaking about is one that we hold annually with all the TIF districts so that we can get input from the business owners and the residents within the TIF district. And then we can make and incorporate their suggestions into your proposed budget. So the sidewalks, the manhole covers, those items fall underneath your capital improvements line. And if you stick around for item number 4, that's when we're going to be going through the budget. Those items were included in the proposed budget that's in front of the CRA today.
All right, I've had to stand here and sit here for years listening to deferred maintenance for my neighborhood. I've been told that numerous times that we are not eligible because it's deferred maintenance. And I, at this point, am exceedingly frustrated. I want to know where that funding is and where is the city's deferred maintenance for this program that takes in a lot of money. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Ms. Conover?
Hi, I'm Andrea Conover. I live at 105 Rivers Edge Drive in East Palatka, and I'm the owner of Azalea City Brewing Company downtown Palatka. I am in favor of having the Main Street program reinstated. I think it will help with some consistency and broadening of events and activities that can draw people downtown, whether it's having events or decorating for the holidays, just not depending on different volunteer groups. Sometimes it's Revitalize Historic Palatka doing them. Sometimes it's DPI. Sometimes the city takes things on and does different events. But I think we need to step it up. I moved here just when the other program was being disbanded, but I used to hang out here and from my previous work. And I just remember, the Friday street festivals and the, car shows and having bands downtown and the businesses being open and all that. And I just wanted to say I'm one business owner that invested a lot of money in my business and definitely want some more going on downtown.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who wants to speak to this particular topic because we're going to move along? Okay, thank you. Any further discussion about this topic?
So along with Commissioner Turner's suggestion, you could table this item and we could just bring it back forward at your next scheduled meeting. You have the survey responses. If anything more substantial comes in, we can forward those out as well.
Thank you. Is that how the group wants to proceed?
Motion to table this item until the next meeting.
Do we have a second?
I have my hand up.
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
No, she seconded.
Yes, I didn't know if you were.
I do have a question.
Okay.
So
Question?
what more outside of additional responses will we get between this meeting and the next meeting?
I'm sorry, Ms. Krantz, you're pointing at the screen.
I was signaling to Mayor Correa that Commissioner Jones has his hand raised.
Okay.
Commissioner Campbell, other than what we've put out already and receiving additional responses to either the mailers or the counter flyers or the online survey request, which went out through Facebook and other channels, you would need to direct us as to anything additional you'd want us to garner feedback.
I'm just asking because we're tabling something, and I just wanted to know that before I make my decision on my vote. Because if nothing different is coming.
Yes.
I think that part of the issues in the past were definitely funding issues because the CRA and the TIF district was flat for many years. In fact, I think there was even a year or two along the way, if not more, that the ad valorem revenue actually decreased in the area back in the that area. And so the last several years, the last 5 years, we've had an increase in ad valorem revenue to help the TIF and the CRA get higher than what they were before that. So I think that the CRA and the Main Street is going to remain stagnant unless we put somebody on it, because there's only so many hours in the day that that an existing staff person can work on it. So I don't see how it gets any better unless we try to fund the position, and that person's position would be to we already in Main Street business than try to make it better. I do think there were some things back, I was on the CRA Main Street board back 10 or 12 years ago. And I think there were some things that they did good with and that they helped with, and they started moving the city in a positive direction on some of those. So, I don't really have a strong opinion on whether we do it or not, but I think that, if we don't, we're just gonna see the same old right on, and nothing's gonna ever change from what it is right now. We might have a little more money to fix an extra manhole or an extra piece of concrete or whatever, but you're just not gonna have the manpower to go and do something to the next step of what it is right now. It's just gonna basically be where it is. Sometime during the meeting, and I'm gonna probably wait until the budget discussion. I think we need to have a discussion on CRA and Main Street altogether. And the way that over the years, the mission statement, for lack of a better term, has completely changed from where it was back when the TIF district started and throughout time. And now we do things with the money that's credible things for sure. But I don't know that it's actually all the money that we're spending is actually helping the TIF district raise more funds to try to be able to move the program farther forward. And when you invest money in your community, we need to try to invest at least some of the money in the community in such a way that will maintain or increase the actual TIF dollars itself, or inflation is just going to eat it up out from us. So, like I said, we'll discuss that during budget, but I think if we're going to do this, we need to just go on and do it. I don't think you're going to have any more people unless y'all ask the city for another survey, Commissioner Warren, or something, to hunt additional information or what have you. I don't know that we're going to get any more just additional information come in unless we ask for it.
Thank you. I agree with Commissioner Turner. I don't like to procrastinate. Yes, I am a business owner downtown. I also live in a TIF district. I have talked to many merchants who are in favor of the reinstatement of the program. I also was on the Main Street board. I have seen what it can do, and if not done right, what it can't do. But the intent of the CRA is to eliminate blight and revitalize. Downtown has the potential to be the most tax revenue dense portion of not just the city, but the county. It is the county seat. It is the historic downtown, and it is dense in terms of potential tax revenue. So we do need to focus on it and really bring it back to where it can be. A lot of us have invested money in downtown, in those businesses, and we do want it to move forward. We did it, I think, for the right reasons, but we do want it to move forward. Thank you.
If I may,
You may.
we can always, for the city, if it didn't work out for a couple of years, could always turn it off again like they did last time. I think when it was turned off last time, mainly for budget issues, more so than program issues. I don't know that for sure, because I certainly wasn't sitting up there with you guys when it was terminated, but I don't know if it was done when Mr. Rudd left and it was just time that they felt like it was time to do it or whatever. I just don't have that information, but it could always be started back up for a year or two on a trial basis to see if it actually moves forward and there's some positive things done within the community. I just really feel strongly that if we don't do something, that it's just going to stay where it is or get worse. So I think we've got to try to do something.
Thank you. With that said,
May I speak?
is that you, Commissioner
Commissioner
Jones?
Gomez.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. As I'm listening to all the opinions,
Is there a way to turn him up?
can you hear me?
1 minute. We're having difficulty hearing you. We're going to try to turn it up.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
little bit.
Just 1 second, Commissioner Jones. She's trying to work on it to make you louder.
1 minute.
I turned it down because of the podium.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, that's great. Thank you.
Okay, great. Um, um, as the newest elected commissioner and being appointed to this board, I'm not privy to know the history of that position and what happened, the successes or the failure. And what I would like prior to voting on this matter is a synopsis, a summary of what happened and why the city elected to get rid of the Main Street manager position in the beginning. That will help. I think Ms. Jackson and myself, neither one of us was on this board to know and to make a decision without that information and receiving this information that we do have late in this process. I don't think we'll be making a good decision without that information. Secondly, listening to Ms. Roach, and I constantly see her in meetings, and as she listens and she participates, I do understand her frustrations as well as a resident that live here in Palatka, live in the area, and wanting repairs to streets and manhole covers, what have you. And we go and we spend a substantial amount of money on one position. That was just a position, because I remember in the presentation of a Main Street manager, there's other costs that's associated. So it's going to be more than just a salary for that position. And I think that we should take care of the issues that our citizens have that live in the area. And I understand the business owners downtown and in that area as well. I just have a couple of questions. One of them is, when we had a Main Street manager and the activities that was brought forth and that made it vibrant during those times, what is preventing the business owners from creating some of that same nostalgia and energy for themselves, or with the the downtown business owners do that themselves? Is there anything that's preventing them from doing that, and maybe kind of working with our community affairs to try to make some of those opportunities where when they close down the street and they do the wine tasting and whatever that they used to have down there? I suggested that one time before and it didn't go over well, but it seemed like the commission is split. Some want it and some is a little puzzled. And I'm puzzled. I'm gonna tell you, I'm puzzled because I need to have more information. I need to know exactly what that job entails, what's the pros and the cons. I like for that to be presented to me, and the city manager asked for direction. The direction I would give at this time is for you to bring a summary to us about the successes and the failures of that position in the past, so that we could make an informed decision. That would be my direction to you, to make a decision on that position and that line item as far as putting the money aside for that position.
Thank you, Commissioner Jones. Anybody else?
And I guess a concern that I would have with trialing this position in 2 years, if the position do not work and we get rid of the position, what happens to that individual that we just employed? So that's kind of something to also take into consideration.
The person would obviously lose their job. I mean, 2 years is not a lot of time for this program to run. But I think that was just hypothetical, an example that Commissioner Turner was giving to, that it could be trial, however length of time this board and the city commission determine. But obviously, if there's no job, that person loses their job.
Absolutely. And so if we're trialing it and we say approximately 2 years, we have to kind of really take that into serious consideration, because that's life-changing for an individual. So just wanted to throw that out there.
I would like to see the information with regards to if we just have a CRA director versus having a CRA director / Main Street versus us just having a Main Street. So I would like to see the different scenarios that could come before us, because it's not mandatory that we have any of this, correct? Or is it mandatory?
So to be a Main Street. Everybody hear me? They probably can't online. Sorry, that's very distracting. To be a Main Street community based upon our population. I'll get it all. Okay. You got it, Sonny? Thank you. I'm good, but I don't think I can get over that distraction. All right, so to be a Main Street community with our population, it's required that we employ a full-time Main Street manager. Smaller communities like Hastings or Interlochen can get by with a volunteer part-time Main Street manager. So that is a requirement to be able to call yourself a Main Street community. As far as the differences, we can lay those out. If you look at the job description, it's possible for us just to highlight those things that are Main Street, and those things that are specifically for a CRA director. It should be understood that there are some areas of overlap because they are both focused on redevelopment on the same area. But to be our CRA director, you do not have to ascribe to the Main Street approach, which would mean less volunteer recruitment and engagement. You'd be more akin to an economic development director, but for a smaller community and for a historic downtown. But any of these suggestions, I'm more than happy to run down for you all as board. I will remind you that you have a motion and a second on the floor. So if that's not the direction the board wants to go, I'd suggest putting that to a vote and then maybe suggesting something else. We're just here to serve you.
I mean, the motion and the second is to table. And I think the discussion is what we've had as a result, give staff direction if we are to table that, what to bring back to us.
Okay, so right now on the floor, we do have a motion, a second to table. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. Okay, so that a motion did not pass. Did Commissioner Jones vote, by the way? I don't. I didn't hear him if he did.
Commissioner Jones, can you hear me? This is the clerk.
There were
I
two.
can hear you, but I missed what you.
Vote, sir.
Unless-
Oh, you mean, hey,
Commissioner
What would
Jones?
you? The vote was to table.
Yes, sir.
I
Are you
voted
in
nay.
favor or opposed?
I voted. I need to hear the motion again. I'm sorry.
Yes, sir. The motion was to table until the next CRA meeting by Commissioner Borum, second by Ms. Jackson.
Yay.
Borum and Jones, aye. Am I correct, Mayor Cray, that everyone else was nay, or did Ms. Jackson
Ms.
vote aye?
Jackson was also in favor.
Ms. Jackson was in favor.
Yes, so there were three in favor and three no votes. Motion died, so.
Motion
moving
dies
right
for lack of a
along.
quorum.
So if the board wants us to bring back more information, I just ask that you give us that direction right now.
Is that the will of the board?
I'll just be completely honest. I am not for it.
For the program?
The CRA director, but
Commissioner, would you mind if I ask you?
Commissioner Turner, can you turn on your mic? I can't hear you.
I think you just need to bring it closer.
See if I can bring it a little closer, Commissioner, that ain't better.
I can't hear you. I can barely hear you.
You don't borrow my hearing aid?
You get me one.
Just
Just
kidding,
kidding.
buddy. Is it any better?
Yes, much better.
Okay. I I was just wondering what your reservations were in the Main Street program. If we hire a CRA manager, it's gonna be the same amount of money that it's gonna cost to hire a CRA / Main Street manager.
I guess overall my concern is that how do we separate the duties? Because if you have if it's supposed to be a full-time person that handles the main street, and then we have them double into the CRA, and it's my understanding that it's supposed to be a separation. Am I correct? And if that's not correct, how do we determine that to where it doesn't come back and haunt us in the years to come? So that's where my reservation is, because if we hire someone to handle the CRA director, that can also make that a part of their job description. I don't care about being Main Street City. We can be the city, which creates something new. So that's one of my major reservations. So I want to make sure that as we move forward, if there has to be a separation, that even though it's our desires, that we properly put it out there, because again, if it needs to be a separation of duties, there is absolutely no way that we can have that that Main Street person serve in the capacity of anything on the CRA, because there's supposed to be a difference. And that's just my overall reservations, not to mention, I would love to see some of the information that Commissioner Jones has requested, the successes and some of the failures. But then again, my overall main concern is that if we approve this, if it's something that we want, but it's not something that is allowable.
Okay, so.
And I would like to see that response come from legal.
Ms. Thomas, are you up there somewhere, Ms. Thomas?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, we have to pose the question again, Commissioner Campbell.
But I can't hear you most of the time.
Okay, Commissioner Campbell.
My overall question is, Commissioner Turner asked, what was my overall reservation? My overall reservation is if we are to employ or decide to go forth with the Main Street manager, is that manager able to do tasks that is dedicated to the CRA director? And that's the simplest form to put it, so it doesn't cause further confusion.
Okay, Commissioner, I guess I'm sort of confused. Are you talking about having a CRA director and a CRA manager?
No, I'm talking about, please correct me if I'm wrong. We're entertaining what at this moment? The Main Street program, which to my understanding they have to have a manager in order for it to be designated, for us to be designated as a Main Street program or Main Street city.
Yes.
Is that part? We're also talking about the possibilities of this person serving as the CRA director / manager, correct?
Yeah, it's probably better if I address this based upon my knowledge of Florida Main Street.
I understand what you're saying, but again, legal, I want the legal backing. You can explain. I'm willing to listen to you explain, but my ultimate decision, I need to hear from legal.
Okay, well, let me ask a clarifying question then. So
Please.
from what perspective or what authority, what agency? So if you're saying from the Main Street organization, is it permissible that they hold two roles, or is it from a city policy? authority?
Both.
Okay. Ms. Thomas?
Okay, as a city
Let's go with
policy,
duties. When do we determine if they're doing city related stuff versus when they're doing CRA Main Street related stuff? Who's the divider? What list of things is this person gonna do for the city? What list of things is this that I need to see all of that.
Okay, so first and foremost, the only dual role that's been permissible from the Main Street organization is a CRA director and Main Street manager role. They have never authorized a dual role for, say, a city employee to serve in a secondary capacity as Main Street manager. That does not fit the requirement for Florida Main Street. to the question about being able to manage what they do, that's in the job description. So the board, with whomever that person is going to report to, historically, it has been the city manager. So they have someone to report to on a day-to-day basis. The job description lays out their primary duties and responsibilities. That's one of the reasons we wanted to include a draft for you all to consider, because we thought it would be helpful in your deliberations. From a city perspective, we have had employees who have held multiple roles. Currently, we have at least 2 or 3 people that have hybrid roles. So a project manager / grants administrator, project manager / engineer. Those are just some examples. Does that help, Commissioner Campbell?
I mean, I still have reservations.
Well, I can't help you with those. I could just
You
try to
can't.
answer the question. Sorry.
And Commissioner Campbell, if you want my input, I agree with what the manager says. This is a position that would report to, well, that's created by the CRA board. And the duties and obligations and responsibilities you have would be dictated by the CRA board. Now, as far as the Main Street manager, you know, it depends on whether the city wants to be called a Main Street and community. They can perform Main Street functions without us being part of that Main Street designation. So it's the job, responsibilities and duties as created by the CRA board.
I just have reservations once again, because if we're looking at becoming that designated city, even Commissioner Turner alluded to it, it's going to require work. So will that person even have the capabilities of serving or doing anything with the CRA as the director or the manager? Because again, if we create this designation, that person is going to have to be all in with that in order to even remotely prove that this is something that we want to make long-term again. And so even going into this, I think even if we were to create that position and have it as a dual duty, we're doing them an injustice, because they will not be able to solely put all of their efforts into the Main Street program, which we need to have all of their efforts in order to make it successful. So I think even at this point in the conversation, that's why I made the request to have, say, what the director come with the dual, or if we just have the manager, so we can look and clearly go across the board to see what are all of our options versus the one option that has come to us. And I say it again, if this person has to be the Main Street person, that person is going to have to really, really, really work hard to gain not only the support of the citizens, but the businesses, and try to redevelop something that in our minds have already been a failure. So they are really going to have to put some time and effort and energy into this to make it successful. So that's why I'm asking for the 3 different things, so that when I make my decision is based on all the information and not just information that was handed to us in a package with a bow on top. I want to make sure that we unpack it so that when citizens start asking us questions, when we have citizens who have other concerns, that we say we vetted this process out, we looked at all angles, we crossed our T's, we dotted our I's. That's the only reason I have a reservation. And once that information is provided to me, I will be a lot more confident in making my decision to say, hey, I support this, I support that, or I support that.
Anybody else?
Well, I mean, and I think that's the reason why I said I want to push it out, to be able to put the city manager and staff to be able to get the information that we need. Again, like we did get the information on the day of. It looks good, but I couldn't unpack it, and I just think that, you know, we're looking at 2 different things. We're looking at the Main Street piece, which we say we have to, that's a designation. So with the designation, is there any ordinance or legal piece that is put in the state from a CRA standpoint? No. So how do we say that it is a requirement? I'm
The Main
confused.
Street program, National Main Street program itself designates to become a Main Street, to become designated as a Main Street community with a population over 5,000, you must have a paid director.
So that's what I'm saying. You're quoting something, but
It's the main, national, you can go on the website, on the Main Street
I
website.
I would like to just get, for somebody just to provide that to me. I mean, and
Okay, I think that.
you're asking me to go and look. I just need to see if we can
Okay,
get the
I think we-
information.
I think that's what in Mr. Griffith's notes. That information.
Because if it's something that the city is required to do, then I want to make sure that we're in compliance. And I have the necessary decision to be able to make a good decision around what's all the information that's before me.
Okay. Anything else, folks? Commissioner Jones, do you have anything else to say? Your hands up.
Yes, thank you for the recognition. I just have this question. Actually, this is illegal. I just want to know, I know, Madam Mayor, you are vested with a business downtown in the historic district area. I just want to make sure before we go too far in any votes, is there any conflict of interest at all that you may have with Main Street dealings and voting on this subject at this time? So I'm asking that to legal.
I think so. Let's ask Ms. Thomas, not me. Ms. Thomas?
Yes, yes, Madam Mayor. Any votes that you would have concerning this would not be what for a direct benefit to you. It would be as, no, it would be as a board member. You can state that you are a board member, and I think all of your fellow commissioners know you are a downtown business owner. And as long as you don't have any kind of direct benefit, I don't see a conflict. Thank you, Commissioner Jones, for bringing that up.
Anything else, Commissioner Jones?
No, I just want to make sure that we were clear, nothing come up later about it.
If I had
Thank
any even small remote belief of that, I would recuse myself, trust me.
No. I referred to legal so that we wouldn't
Right.
proceed.
Thank you. Any further, or can we move on to the next agenda item?
Resolution.
We don't, but
More specifically, there've been a lot of suggestions of things that you as individuals would like to see, but I would appreciate it if the board would give me a list of things they would like to see so I can make sure I address all of them.
and again, what do we want to do next? What's the next recommendation, motion, whatever?
I move that we have the city manager come back with a summary of the successes and the failures, the pros and the cons of us getting the Main Street manager, and what the problem that we had as past Commissioner Kitchen stated. She may know something that we don't know or she didn't disclose, but I would like to have that information given to us, provided to us. So I move that the city manager bring that forth before us voting on that.
That's completely dismissing what my request was as well.
I'm sorry, go ahead. Well, I didn't hear you make a motion.
I didn't make a motion, but your motion did not encompass other things that the commission desired to have. You just said the pros and the cons. I said I would like to see the positions in all three different capacities.
Okay, I must have missed your statement. So go
I
ahead.
just spoke for about 5, 10, 15 minutes on that.
Well, it's technology. So go ahead, Campbell, Commissioner Campbell.
Okay, so Commissioner Jones, do you want to, you started a motion? I don't know if you want to rephrase the motion to include,
I withdraw my motion
okay,
and open the floor back up to the commission.
So what's the easiest way to do this, Jonathan? You have some direction as far as what it is that some of us would like to see.
I can read them off for you real quick, just to make sure that I have it clear, if you don't mind.
yes, Commissioner Turner.
It looks to me like we're not installed this tonight. It's clearly free. We talked about it at midnight. It's not going to change. If it will help this situation, I'll change my vote to the table until the next meeting, and then they can get whatever information they need. And then maybe we can have a discussion about either those up or down.
I'm willing to do the same, but my thing with the motion that was put into place, it wasn't time certain. I don't want them to have to rush to get us something because our next meeting is Thursday. And is that enough time to really?
That this would be.
So this,
Yeah.
okay. So if Commissioner Bourne would like to restate the motion to table.
I'll let somebody else bring it up. I put.
No,
mine-
I'm just saying like that was not clear.
I mean, yeah, but just go ahead and,
That's
somebody
where
can make.
discussion came in from.
Do we have a timeline possibly, though, to bring this back?
Ms. Krantz, the date of the next meeting, please.
It'll be October the 9th at 5 o'clock.
Mayor, I'll move to table this, agenda item until October the 9th, CRA meeting. The information that's been requested by commissioners is produced between now and then and given.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
All right.
Any opposition? Me, nay. Okay, and that motion passed. Did Commissioner Jones vote, by the way? It's hard to hear him.
No, I didn't, because I can't hear Commissioner Turner.
May I restate?
Please.
Motion to table to October 9th CRA meeting and that the information requested by the board is produced between now and then and given. Motion made by Commissioner Turner, second by Commissioner Campbell.
That was the same motion that is recently, right?
Yeah,
The table it?
Yeah.
I mean, technically it's not because
Different.
it's a different motion.
Nay.
Back where we was.
Motion passed 4-2.
How?
Um,
That's 3-3.
Who's the other nay? There were two nays.
Oh,
There was 2 nays on the dais.
I
And
mean,
then-
I voted for the move to have the thing table like I did in the very beginning, but yes, I voted yes.
You voted yes. There were only two nays,
Okay.
Commissioner Jones and I vote, as far as I heard. Is that what you heard, Ms. Krantz, or anybody else?
did anyone vote nay that I did not record?
I voted nay.
Well, I recorded you, sir. Sorry. I was looking at the dice, but you probably can't tell that.
Okay, thank you.
No, it's
No, no,
for
no,
two
no,
to
no, no.
table this
You
round.
voted, you are tabling it.
It's
You voted to
4-2
table. It was
table this
approved.
round,
Correct.
which the first one failed.
Okay, okay, next, item on the agenda, recommendation to execute MOU, with the Small Business Development Center.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Board members, before you, you have the annual memorandum of agreement with the Florida Small Business Development Center. This is included in your proposed budget. The total amount is $20,000 in quarterly payments, and I believe we have Mr. Rick Paul here if you have any questions of him.
Does anybody have any questions of Mr. Paul?
I had the same question as always. How
Okay,
many
go
people?
ahead.
I want, could we get a summary of success stories from Mr. Paul for what we're contributing? Have we been able to secure a financial institution that can help these folk that's trying to get small businesses get their business financed, or at least get them financing or credit?
Good evening, Commissioner. There are several banks that I work with. It depends on the person, it depends on the lender, and it depends on the client as to whether or not they get financing. I get them to the finish line, and I've got a couple of examples I can share with you during my report. And then it's up between the client and the bank and or lender. We do have lenders that specialize. They're community lenders now that I'm more aware of that lend under $50,000 for that sort of amount. And then there are lenders that do over, say, 500,000. So we have everything in between. No, I have not gone and talked to individual bankers other than what I reported probably about a year ago, I think, where I went and talked to the bankers and they said that their CRA money, and I'm sorry, there are two CRAs here, too many acronyms floating around, but the bank set aside some funds to invest into the community. Those books are available at every bank. All you got to do is walk in the lobby and ask to see the book, and I'm happy to show it to you.
Mr. Jones, do you have any, Commissioner Jones, any other questions of Mr. Paul?
I was looking forward to hearing a success story of somebody who came through the program and got funded and opened a new small business in the city.
Yes, we have some of those. I detailed one last time about Gym City Coffee.
Yes, Commissioner Turner?
You hear me, Commissioner Jones?
Vaguely, go ahead.
Okay, I think that it's important to this discussion to bring up that the $20,000 that the city is putting up is just a small fraction of money from the public-private partnership that works on the Small Business Development Center. So it's not complete funding for the center, it's just a small portion of the $5.
Yes, sir.
I still can hear you, but I think you said something about we just giving a fraction of some of that up. Is that right? What you said? I can't hardly hear you, Mr. Turner.
Yeah, that's just part of the funding. It's not the total funding. So Commissioner Turner was talking about how it's a certain percent. I'm not exactly sure what the percent is.
Yeah, and I know that. I guess my question is when we hear from you, I'm telling you what I would like to hear, and maybe this is not possible. But, you know, as we work in our community and we're talking about expand, that's just like we're talking about what will make downtown successful. What can make the small businesses that's not downtown successful? What your program could do? And I think the challenges, and we all agreed that it's getting financed after you open a business. Some folk are just looking for that small business financing. And I want to know, do you have a component? You told me about, you talk to the banks, and you told me they have, I guess, credit challenges and things of that nature. So I said before, I have folks jumping through hoops to go through the program, and they have the challenges going in. And, you know, I guess sometimes you can just say, well, listen, if your credit is not where it need to be, this is not going to happen for you. And just have them going through a credit repair or offer them something to deal with the obstacle that they're going to meet at the end of that program, so they can be prepared for really the letdown. Because most people who went through the program or going through the program, I get phone calls and say, well, I'm just having a problem. I got a business plan. You know, I've done everything that's required of this program and others, but I have problem getting that funding. Is there any sources out there that I can use to try to get funding? And that's not your problem, but I'm just looking for solutions, or are there solutions out there for folks like that?
Yes, Commissioner. Like I said a minute ago, we have some new community lenders that will lend under $50,000. Some of them are $5,000 or $10,000. It depends on the client, their credit history, how good the business plan is, what their experience is, and that sort of thing. Year to date, I think I'm over 9 or 10 new business starts, and I think it's 6.4 million in loans that I've helped guide through. And in my report coming up under section 5, I'll be talking about some of the more recent clients that I've had.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else have any questions, Mr. Plum? Thank you. Okay, so we're looking for a recommendation to move forward with the MOU. Does anybody want to make that motion?
Mayor, I move that we execute a memorandum of understanding with the Small Business Development Center for October 1st, 2023 till September 30th, 2024 at the stated amount.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposition? Okay, thank you. Presentation and recommendation to accept the FY 2021-2022 CRA audits. Ms. Cardi?
Yes. Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners, everyone that's here. I would like to present to you the audit from our auditors. The most important item is that we did receive an unqualified opinion. And that means we received a clean opinion, that there were no findings, there were nothing that would adversely impact or reflect our financial status. So that is the most positive portion of the audit report. The audit report was also filed and completed timely. We did make we met the deadline that the state of Florida have issued, which is June 30th, I'm sorry. So that deadline is also met. It's also important to notice that our total assets did increase briefly, or not too much. It went from 1,234,000 up to 1,264,000. So there was an increase of our net position. So our net position increased as stated on page 35, page 6 of the report, $27,234. And primarily it was because of the tax revenues increasing by 8.25%. And that's on page 6 of the audit report itself. Also, if you look on page 7 of the audit report, it does reflect that our total revenues did increase for the fiscal year ending 2021. The revenues were $574,000, and for this year that the audit is being presented, the revenues were increased to $621,786. However, it is also important to note that our expenses increased. So we went from 129,677 to 373,124. At the end of the year, again, just reiterating that the net position went from 1,230,744 to 1,257,978. Okay. The actual revenues itself were 422,000 less than what we were budgeting for that year as well. That's also detailed on page 7 of the audit report. And if we roll over to page 8, this is called the statement of net position. And that is a statement that reflects where you are on a date certain. So on the last day of our fiscal year, September 30th, 2022, Our net position is that same 1,257,978. Again, it's just reiterating the increase of the 27,000, okay? On page number 9, just take my time if it's okay. Again, this is governmental accounting that we're looking at. And as you can see, I'm just showing you step by step where the various items are. There again is the expenses, there again is our net position. And additionally, the actual revenue that was earned, the 617,586. Because this is governmental accounting, there must be a reconciliation from one type of accounting to the other. And so that is detailed on page 10. And these are requirements that GASB say we must do. And so therefore the auditor did comply. If we're looking on page, I don't have to go page. Yes, sir.
The question I had was we said that the operational side went up substantially and we kind of pretty much stayed flat on the revenue.
Okay, no, all right, so let me go back. So, if I go back to, I saw that, maybe page, a good example to see it would be page 7.
Yes.
That's easier for everyone to kind of understand. So on page 7, what you'll see is that the revenues did actually go up. And it went up from that 574,000, page 7, to 621,000. However, program expenses also went up, from 129 to that 373. So our increase is much less. You understand? The increase in the year ending 2022 is 248,000, whereas last year was 444. I think what I'm trying to put forth here is that the net of all of the transactions for the year that just ended, the net increase is 27,000.
Right, but what I was,
So,
you said the 129 and change, and then the 373 and change, operational standpoint.
it went up. It did.
Okay.
And then the revenue also went up too.
Right, well, you got
Not as much.
621.
Right.
You don't have much of a difference. The key that I was looking at was it's almost 3 times that.
So the other component to look at on page 7, this now because of your question, you might want to also look at transfers. Because if you notice that our transfers are significantly different compared to the year ending 2022 compared to the year ending 2021. So our transfers out in that 2021 year is only 68,000, whereas in this year that ended September 30th, 2022, we're actually transferring out more, 221,000. So all of those components is why those transactions is why our increase is only 27,000 because we did transfer more funds out.
Well, yeah, I just want to understand that a little bit better from the perspective of the large amount being that transferred out. I just wanted to see how.
You want to understand what that 221 is or what was it for?
I mean, I just want to look into that, not today.
Okay, we can do that. Not a problem. And that's the advantage of our software.
Yeah.
ADG will actually detail that for us.
I just need a little bit more education around that.
Yes, sir. I will make sure that we have that opportunity. I was also looking to see if possibly in the notes, he had detailed it. I don't see it. So yes, you can always come and we will go over that with you. As requested.
Thank you.
I'm kind of looking through the compliance I moved rather quickly and moved over to page, because I was trying to see, did they detail what those transfers were for, and then I could have just answered it for you, but I do not see it detailed in the report, therefore, I will make certain that we will provide that to you.
Appreciate it.
Okay, so going forward, on page 20, there's something called requires supplementary information, and that would be the budget versus actual. Okay, and so on page 20, you'll see that our final budget was $1,043,000. However, our actual was 621,000. So we expected to receive more funds or use more funds. However, we did really receive 617,000 again of that are the taxes. Our final budget for economic environment expenditures were 915,000. But again, we only spent 373,000. So we were 542,000 less than our spending than what we budgeted. Okay. At the end of the day, again, we're looking at the net change in fund balance of 27,234. Our fund balance at the beginning of the year was 1,230,744. So therefore, at the end of September 30th, 2022, the fund balance for our CRA TIP funds it's $1,257,978. And finally, compliance. The auditor had to really review to see if in all material aspects, the CRA TIP fund is complying with the guidance that the state of Florida issues. And there are some very specific items, things like that we're placing the advertisement on the website. You know, these are compliance issues that the auditors must be sure that we are complying with. Some other items is that we are really moving forward with light and economic development. So they have to really give these assurance that our TIF program are compliant. And so in reading the report that is detailed starting on page 23, ending on page 24, they are given an assurance that we are complying in all material respects. The internal control was considered, and even though an opinion is not issued on the internal control, we are complying as the state of Florida mandates. Okay. And I think that would pretty much, let me look at, I would like to look at okay, so let's look at page 27, please. That would be the management letter. The most important item is prior audit findings. And pursuant to section 10.554, rules of the Auditor General, the auditor determined that there were no such findings. So there were no findings that required any kind of corrective action. Also looking at our financial condition and management on page 28. And these, the items that the CRA must comply with are extremely specific. So, and if they do not meet those conditions, it has to be identified. So what the auditor is saying at the top of page 28, in connection with our audit, we determined that the downtown Palatka CRA did not meet any of the conditions described in section 218. And so that's a positive thing. It's a good report, okay? All right, and finally, there's a portion of the CRA audit where they have to like give the numbers, the actual numbers like A, the total number of district employees. You literally have to state, is it 2, 3, 4? And the auditor stated 0. The number of independent contractors were 0. Compensation earned or awarded to employees, 0. Compensation awarded to non-employee independent contractors, 0. All of this indicate that we really are not conducting much activity as we should or could. That's me on the side talking. They didn't say that. I said that. Sorry. Okay, and finally, that's it for our report from the auditor. There is a portion there for budget versus actual, which we've already looked at. And so what we're asking that you all consider accepting the audit report from our auditors HCT. Thank you.
Second.
Motion, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition? Okay. Thank you. Move on to the next item, acceptance and recommendation of the budget presentation for fiscal year 23-24.
Board members, we put this on the agenda in hopes that we wouldn't have as much discussion as we did on item number 1 and number 2. Since you have your second workshop scheduled for this Thursday, there is not another CRA meeting that occurs unless you call a special one to approve the budget and make a recommendation to the commission for acceptance. So we put it on this agenda in hopes that you want to at least let us get the presentation and address any of your concerns and make those edits to the budget. So I and Ms. Carty are prepared to present the budget. There's not a lot of notable changes, but there are some. If you're willing to hear it, otherwise we'll just do it at the normal schedule time, which I think is
2:30, sir.
What's the pleasure of the board? Do we want the presentation? I don't either, but I'm just saying if that's the consensus.
I'm just going to go over some of the high points. Feel free to interrupt me and ask questions. You'll see on page 63. That's what it should be from the front. It has the numbers I do. When I get the back of the front, I had different numbers. That should be the beginning page of the budget. Is that what you all see? Okay. You'll see we're seeing an increase of approximately $148,494 in additional revenue from all 3 TIF districts. I just want to note the percentage increase for TIF district. So in downtown, 23.18% increase year over year. In the south, that's 19.19, and in the north, that's 9.7. That's pretty much consistent with what we see every year. Those are listed in greatest to least as far as geographic area tax value. If you flip the page, you go to page 64, beginning of the downtown TIF district budget. You'll notice that we have budgeted for executive salaries and then all TIF districts, so this is portion for the downtown. In professional services, that has been increased based upon some of your previous conversations. Of note, what's in here is money for a parking study downtown, in addition to contracted code enforcement services for this district. Any questions on those 2 categories?
Any questions? No.
Moving on. You'll see we have budgeted for the Small Business Development Center. It shows 12,000. Again, that is a share for the downtown, just the same for the other 2 districts. The maintenance contract, I have proposed an increase to this, mainly because what you can fund in the CRA for maintenance is only above and beyond what the taxing jurisdiction presently does. And historically, we've heard from the board, if you want to see more, maintenance in the downtown corridor, you want to make it nicer. It's on a different level than everywhere else. So for your consideration, I've increased this from 10,000 to 40,000. And part of that was acknowledging that sometime next year, you're going to see the major capital project in St. John's Avenue completed. We wanted to make sure that we had enough money there to put a proper maintenance contract in place. Any questions about that? Marketing and promotions, you'll see that has gone to 0 based upon the most recent Attorney General opinion. Same thing with festivals. That is also zeroed out, so we will no longer be bumping those activities. Miscellaneous expenses is basically that's what it's called, office supplies, printing, binding, anything of that nature. You typically don't see a lot there. But if you were to bring a CRA director or Main Street manager online, you wanted to make sure that there was something in the budget that would be effective in that category. Training and schooling, that's line 5401. You'll see this in each of the 10 districts. That's to send staff persons to the Florida Redevelopment Association training. So if you had a director who didn't already have this qualification, I would strongly urge that we send them to get this training. Very beneficial, and it's recognized as a qualification that one would need to hold the CRA director position. DEO annual dues, we have to pay the state at the redevelopment agency. It's pretty self-explanatory. Downtown Christmas lights, consistent with what we've been doing for the past 5+ years. The recruitment project, Ms. Tucker advised me this is for an already awarded contract project. I don't recall the name. For the second. If not, yep. Building improvement grant, same thing. This 126 includes contract grants as well as some set aside funding if you want to continue this program next year. You'll see that in the other districts as well. Landscaping, same argument as the maintenance contract. While we are focusing on St. John's Avenue with that streetscape project, that's only from 4th Street to railroad tracks. Downtown is much larger than St. John's Avenue. We wanted to make sure that there was some landscaping funding in there for us, hopefully for CRA director, to improve the appearance of the entirety of the district. Site amenities, this is your trash receptacles, your benches, and bike racks. The city, the CRA still does have that sponsor event program. So we put money in this line because the donation doesn't cover the cost of the bench and the install, just covers a portion of it. So if you see somebody make a donation for a bench, this is where the balance of that funding comes from. Cover art, we typically give a request to the Economy Center Rental Committee and yet to receive that request, but we haven't budgeted. This is what we have budgeted for the past few years. Property acquisition, those were specific to acquisitions last year. And then the capital outlay, this description goes to the other districts as well. These are those, this is kind of a catch-all line for those things that were requested by the different neighborhoods and residents. They wanted to see more sidewalk improvements and other capital type improvements. I don't believe there's any major difference to flip over a 66. What you see is that the line item amounts for the same program and line item descriptions are just a smaller share because the fund balance for the stack is smaller. So, for instance, the building improvement grant, instead of being in excess of $100,000 downtown, it's $5,000. Still put $50,000 capital outlay. There's a significant amount of sidewalks and ADA rates to be repaired in the South Dakota district. And then Historic District. Same thing, you see during the food grant, 50,000. You'll see their share of the executive salaries a lot less than the other two districts. And still 50,000 in general capital. Look to the transfers, the general administrative expense, that is reimbursing the general fund for the administration services of finance department staff, city manager staff, and business services staff. That is consistent on all three districts. And sorry, I'm looking for the one debt service transfer. On it.
That 89,065.
It's like the fifth or sixth down.
Yes. So that is the transfer for this, that TIF district portion of the debt service payment to the state revolving loan fund. You'll recall some of your staff pledged that project forward.
Right.
This has not hit yet. Technically, the payments won't start until the entire project, which is in excess of 11 billion citywide, is closed out. But we have to consistently keep funding this. So that's one of the reasons, in addition to the 500,000 set aside for St. John Avenue, we're seeing such a large carry forward. You have to put these things in your budget, but they haven't hit yet. So there's a possibility that that service payment will hit up next year. If not, that's another 89,000 that you can reallocate somewhere else later in the year or in the next fiscal year. Do you have any questions?
Anybody have any questions?
This is at 1 on 64, page 64. The wayfinding, what was, I thought the board was apprised with information about the wayfinding that something didn't meet certain F dot, was it F dot? So where are we at with that?
Yeah, and I can, basically, my answer will give you the justification for the decrease from the 60,000 to the 15,000. You may recall at the last meeting, we advised you that what we had previously been told by DOT, where they were receptive to off-site business-specific signage on the corridor, was not correct. And they are agreeable to the few signs that are public purpose. So for instance, coming off the foot of the bridge, directing people to public restrooms in the riverfront park. So what we had budgeted for, we will no longer be able to do. So that 15,000 is simply to do the few remaining public purpose signs on the DOT corridor, which you've authorized the permitting and design effort with CHW, and that's still underway. And for the business specific signage not on the DOT right away, so just in the downtown core, we believe that 15,000 will be sufficient based upon the initial applications we received from business owners.
And then the bench, is 15,000 as well. The, for the, a portion from whoever wants to give a donation. And the other portion, I guess, will come out of, the, downtown. It'll come out of the downtown. So what does that percentage look like?
I'd much rather give you that after the fact,
Okay.
Commissioner Borland. It's been some time since somebody's made a contribution and I don't want to give you the wrong information, but I know it's more like a 75-25 where they contribute 75% and we contribute 25%.
All right. Thanks, appreciate it.
But I can get you exact numbers gladly.
I mean, 75-25, you're in the ballpark, so I just want to understand and know what we're working with. Appreciate it.
Any further questions, Commissioner March?
No further questions.
Anybody else have any questions? Okay,
So the question I have for you is, do you still want to hold your budget workshop on Thursday to go through the same exercise, or if you find the budget agreeable in its current state or with minor modifications, you want to move for a recommendation to approve tonight, so that we don't have to call a special called CRA meeting sometime between Thursday and the end of August.
Anyone have any thoughts?
Madam Mayor, I have some questions on the budget this morning. I've been part of the board with the city manager getting the equipment and,
Okay.
and they all seem like really, really good answers. We're just trying to obey anything straightforward and, I don't personally need, I think that they're way within budget. I think they're fine. A budget is like an outline of what we're gonna do next year, can always be amended throughout the year if necessary, either up or down or whatever needs to be done. Is our best guess projection on what we're gonna try to accomplish next year. That being said, I will move that we accept this budget recommendation for staff.
I will second it.
Did you say second? I'm sorry, Commissioner. Did you second?
I did.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. I'm sorry.
Madam Mayor, may I restate the motion, Commissioner Jones, as he still can't hear Commissioner Turner?
Summarize briefly, can you? Commissioner
You
Jones?
don't have to summarize that motion.
Okay.
You don't, but I can't hear you when you speak.
Can't hear him.
Commissioner Turner moved to accept the budget recommendation from staff, and it was seconded by Commissioner Campbell.
Okay, I was making a statement. I know he, can you hear me?
Kind of.
Never mind, I'll just listen from here on. I'm having technical difficulties. I can't hear him, and I don't know if you guys are hearing me.
So I just got a question. I just have a question. I think I have a question on the, on the budget, which it includes everything that we talked about, that we said that we were gonna be pushing to Thursday or a future meeting. Is that what I understand, or is that not true?
My motion was to go ahead and pass the budget as presented, which there would be no reason for a special meeting or a Thursday meeting either if we pass the budget today.
Okay, but my question was, when we're passing the budget today, is included in what we to say we were gonna
We have.
table the meeting, so was that?
It only includes funding, Commissioner. It doesn't say that we're going to do it.
Right.
It says that we include funding for it and the commission decides they want to do it.
Again, I also heard that we want to have a meeting to even discuss what came back. So that's what I'm understanding.
No.
So,
Okay.
as I understand it, Commissioner Borum, you tabled the discussion surrounding the Main Street Manager, CRA Director. So staff will take no further action on that, except for what we've been asked to do, which is some additional homework and summary. That will come back to you in October. In the budget is the funding for that position. However, as previously stated, we'll take no further action on filling that position. And if you take action in the future as a board to say we don't want to fill that position, then we will ask you for additional guidance on how to reallocate those funds at that time.
So
Most
it's a
likely.
placeholder right now, basically.
Right, but my question is, well, again, I just want to be clear on the question. The question was, we tabled the making a decision on that position until we got information back from staff. So,
Mhm.
all right.
Mhm.
Okay,
Till
all right,
October.
understand. So, yeah, I'm good now. I'm clear.
Okay, thank you. So we had a motion and a second. We'll try the vote again. I don't know, because I don't know what Commissioner Jones. Huh?
No,
I know, we're gonna try to get a vote now.
well, it wasn't called a question, we called it a question. That's-
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition? Commissioner Jones? Okay, thank you. We'll go on to reports from the Small Business Development Center. Third quarter report.
Madam Mayor, Commissioners, guests, everybody, hello. How hot is it outside? My shoes melted on the way in. All right, yeah, I know we're all tired. Commissioner McCaskill suggested a workshop last time around. That one was held on July 11th. It was Steps to Start Up Your Own Business workshop. Was held at the Chamber of Commerce, very successful. About 6 to 8 people showed up for that, and we went at least 2 hours on that particular workshop. In front of you is the next coming workshop coming up. It's on government procurement. In this case, the title is actually Doing Business with a Local Government. We did this last year. However, this year we also added the city of Crescent City into the mix. This will be held on October 17th. There'll be 2 sessions, one in the morning and one in the afternoon. This is right now a draft flyer. Excuse me. I still have to get some feedback on it. And when the flyer is correct, I will send it to you individually. This is a very good opportunity for the city and the county and the college to get together and try to encourage small business ownership and encourage us small businesses to have government contracting with the local government entities. Since last time, I've had some success and some failures with some of the clients. I did get somebody through a guaranteed loan program, new business start, that was $40,000 cash. However, I've got a $300,000 project that the lender may or may not go for. In that case, we'll repackage it, relook at it, and resubmit it to another lender. There's also another $300,000 project coming along. That's fantastic. It's a new business type for Palatka and Putnam County. My hope is that this particular business would locate in the downtown corridor, and we'll just have to wait and see how that particular one develops. So been pretty busy on that type of thing. I would like to point out that the small business data that we had all those workshops on last year about incubators and, small business and so forth. I know staff is overwhelmed at this point in time with budget and everything else that's going on, but I would sure like to see that data somehow come forth, because that was would be an excellent collaboration between the city and the county as far as small business ownership, and how to proceed to attract more small businesses in the town. So perhaps in the future, we could take a look at that information. Hopefully that's quick enough for you guys. Do you have any questions?
We're almost there. 1 second. Does nobody have any? Commissioner Jones, any questions? Okay, no questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Do we have a motion to adjourn? Apparently we do.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, thank you.